Good evening, everyone. We're not doing Transpicuous Views tonight. We're going to do the UnFuckIt discussion. More going to have like a big free-for-all discussion here. We've got a bunch of stuff I want to talk about, some interesting shit that seems to be going on. The first one I want to talk about, and I'm hoping you guys, I don't know if any of you guys have dug into this. If you have, I especially would like to find out from people down in, if anyone's got contacts down on the east coast of South America, and of course all the Floridians in the group, etc. So we had Hurricane Irma last week, and there was all the flooding that happened, and there was a lot of different things that went through. Now, for me, the whole conversation of, was it a man-made storm? Yeah, of course it was a man-made storm. Were they doing really weird shit to drive the storm? Oh, they absolutely were. So that's a given. A lot of people have been focusing on, the damages. You know, there's been power outages, there's been internet's down, power's down, all this kind of stuff. Structural damages, things like that, and floods. But to me, those are so unimportant. The one thing that I think everyone should be looking at, and kind of if you feel up to it and feel like kicking it around a bit, why did all the water disappear? No, we talked about it last week, and we talked about the fact of in Bahamas. And it was just like all of a sudden, all the freaking water. And I mean, it wasn't like the tide receded by 100 or 200 meters. It was like the tide receded by kilometers. So it happened in Florida, on both coasts of Florida, as far as I was aware, from the Atlantic and the Gulf side. Now, someone sent me another note, and it was in the UnFuckers group, and I just went and randomly started closing off pages, and of course I closed down all the ones that I had saved to talk about on the show. And it was, this one took place because if you remember, this has come up since August. So really is a month, a little more than a month. I'd say more like about 6 weeks. Oh, excuse me. Oh, excuse me. Well, it's 6 weeks, 8 weeks, where we've been hearing reports of, again, like the flood tides on the Pacific side. So on the Pacific side of South America, there were like all of a sudden way, way huge flood tides coming in, strangely, and South Africa. But also hearing about the receding in South America on the Atlantic side, where on the East Coast, the water was just freaking leaving. And then we have the hurricane. And during this hurricane, there's all this water leaving. And I mean, you can look at it from all different things. You can look at it from like those extreme woo-woo of like, you know, the spaceships were landing and they put the storm in place to hide the spaceships who were sucking up all the water. And trust me, I've actually heard that tossed out as a theory. And then we talked about last week the theory of the planetary wobble, that as the Earth's tilt is shifting, water is going to start moving away from certain areas, moving towards other areas. We talked about the fact of how, for example, if you have flood tides, water is leaving one side of South America and then having huge high tides on the other side of South America, is that the amount of time it takes for the whole water bowl, if you've ever tried to carry a big bowl full of water and the water slops from side to side, is that how long it took for the water to circle all the way around? The one that was interesting though is, Chris, what you brought up, okay, is a large crack, is that there was a deep fissure, there was an earthquake deep in the ocean that opened a fissure, and the seawater poured in. Now, the only problem, there's two ways of looking at that theory. The only problem is, for example, if the water had drained away and didn't come back, that to me would be the most likely cause. Like I would be like, okay, that's my number one choice, right? That the water is seeping into the planet somewhere, like a crack, whatever, the water seeping in. But when the water comes back again, you have to go, okay, wait, the water seeped in the crack and then it came back out. I have a lot of questions about this because we know your NOAAs and your NASAs and all the rest of those guys do nothing but USGS, etc. They feed us nothing but bullshit. You're never ever going to never get a straight answer. NASA, never a straight answer. There have been, and Pamela, you're right, there have been a lot of deep earthquakes lately. We can take into account during that whole Irma thing. We had the earthquake in 8.2 off of the coast of Mexico, down the southern point, down towards Central America. There have been a lot. There have been several over here in the Med that we didn't feel them. We didn't feel them at all, and yet they were over. They were 4.5s or something, a couple hundred kilometers away in the Mediterranean. There's something to this. There's so many questions. Like I said, I've looked at all the geophysical, if you will, aspects to it. Like what geophysically could be causing it. Like I said, earth shift, crack in the earth's crust, etc. But it doesn't account for, none of those account for the water suddenly coming back and slowly coming back. Like, I mean, that was the whole thing. Let's face it. Who heard or knew of the anomaly of receding tides before the tsunami in Thailand, in Sri Lanka? Almost no one. Almost no one had ever heard of that. It wasn't until there was that massive tsunami that caused so much destruction. And the big thing that everyone commented on was the fact that the water fucking hugely receded. It became an entry point into the common knowledge of the public that this is what you see before a tsunami. And since then, it's been used in several movies, right? They've used that whole thing. Oh, the water's pulling back. Oh, here comes the tsunami. So there was a lot of people when this happened in Bahamas, in Florida, etc., and down in southern Brazil, who were like, oh my God, is this a tsunami warning? The tides are pulling back. Are we about to have a massive tsunami? And it didn't happen. It was just like the water just slowly trickled back in and refilled up right back to its normal point. So first off the hop, does anyone else have any theories? Have any of you guys looked into this? Because I'm open to putting cards on the table if anyone's got any other ideas, if anyone's got something different than what I've thought of.
I think it's the planets. That's what I think.
Okay, but then, and I've thought of that too. Moon anomaly. First of all, we know the moon's freaking floating all over the place. We have, I don't know, is jailing with us? How many fucking photos and videos do we have showing the moon's in the wrong spot in the sky yet again, or it didn't appear, or it appeared when it wasn't supposed to? So the moon is supposed to control the tides. That's the rhetoric. A planetary alignment, large bodies, planetary bodies, okay. But again, why would it only affect specific pinpointed places?
Exactly. And I think that's what I've been thinking about too, Danny. It's really fucking weird, isn't it?
If it happened everywhere, you know, or let's say, not say everywhere, but say a coastline. Like say it happened right down the east coast of North America, all within a couple of hours, like it all kind of did this, then I would seriously look at the whole planetary bodies question and say, okay, we're looking at a shift. Something is causing a gravitational shift, perhaps. But when it only happens in like Bahamas, and then Key Largo, and then Tampa, and then Sarasota. It doesn't make sense.
Although, and I haven't gone back to try and prove this, but Mr. Beebe reported that when it pulled the water from, I think it was the Bahamas, I'd have to go find his video again, that it actually came back, and it happened like 2 more times. The water disappeared.
Okay, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, after Irma was gone and on her way, the water just receded again, according to him. So I'd have to go back and see.
Okay, well then, yeah, please find out if you can find me a link to something that shows you guys in Florida. Did it happen multiple times, or was it just the one time? These are the things you want to know. These are big questions.
Right.
This is major. This is, to me, I'm sorry, and I don't mean to offend anyone who was, went through losing property or property damage, etc. I don't care about the flooding. I don't care about the winds. It's not important. What's important is all this water disappearing. This is a major piece for me, I'm like, I gotta know.
I agree with you, Danny.
Joseph, did you have something to add?
Oh, wait a minute.
Just you're unmuted, hon. Oh, now he's muted. Okay. So that's one of them. And I'm telling you, I mean, and don't get me wrong, you guys all know that I'm not a Nibiru person. I'm not. And we got into this, I think, on Wednesday, didn't we? Pretty sure it was Wednesday or Sunday. But we have certain things that are happening that you could say could most definitely be explained by another large object with a gravitational field interfering with our gravitational field. So I'm certainly not saying it's Nibiru, because I don't fall for all the Nibiru bullshit. I never ever has that ever resonated with me. But Jane, you have a point that we're looking at different kind of alignments. Are we seeing something? There have been a lot of fucking photos of shit in the sky that no one can explain. How many photos have we seen in Unfuckers in the last year alone of bizarre sun pictures or second sun pictures? And God knows we've analyzed a shitload of those over the last couple of years. How many pictures of the moon that we put up that have been like, wow, that's just really, really fucking strange. Donna, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I watched this video yesterday, or I was listening to this guy, and I know a lot of people think that I'm a crazy, wacko conspiracy theorist, but this guy was just off the wall, because he said the reason why they had the flooding in Houston and then all the crap with Irma is that they need bodies for the AI to inhabit, and all of these bodies would be the purpose because Nibiru is coming. See, you have the same reaction I did. I was like, what?
Hey,
and he was totally serious.
Listen, I will take shit to extremes. I mean, if you've ever been in my house, and I always joke that if there was a hidden camera to record the conversations that I have with people in my house, they would come and put me in the tuxedo with the extra long arms and the padded wallpaper. It's not even a question. Because I'll visit anything. I will review anything. Like if someone throws something at the table at me, I'll go, okay, let's look at it. Yeah. They're coming and they're sucking up our salt water. Okay, well, let's look at it. Why? And, that one, though, is a little, like, I mean, now you got the AI and you've got the bodies inhabiting and you've got, like the Nibiru's, like, that seems a little like, okay, let's. But, hey, who knows? I ain't got no answers. So, well, this is it. So we'll segue into the next point. So we started with this. We've talked umpteen times, we've talked about earthquakes and volcanoes, and we've talked about the physical shit, geologically, if you will, happening on the planet. So let's put that aside for a moment, right? Because there's God knows we have enough questions about this. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, and I know it sounds like a broken record, but these things keep coming up, is the shit that's going on with us. Because we're seeing, you know, again, in the Unfuckers group, people are talking about some of the dreams that they've been having. Wild, fucking crazy dreams of seeing code, seeing the flashing lights, hearing voices talking to them, even when they're not dreaming. There's a lot of shit going on. And it feels like, I mean, I always say that everything seems to be just going like this. It's like a continuous upward grade now, right? Like there's no leveling off. It was like I said, joke, it was like, 2 years ago, it was like you'd have like one of these and then you'd level off for a couple of weeks and then another one and then you'd level off. And now it's just straight out. Like there's just no breaks in between it anymore. And we say, 2 months ago, we say things like, oh my God, this and this and this is happening. And then we sit here today and it's what? September 17th, already past the middle of the fucking month. And we look at, since we talked about the last time, you go, holy shit, like it's exponentially increasing. And it's kind of the story we were talking about before we went live, even people who are unaware. People who are unaware are now starting to go, what the fuck is going on? Someone was talking about their granddaughter who's completely unaware, saying that she feels like she's being psychically attacked, going through all kinds of crazy stuff. So I want to talk about this a bit. We're seeing an increase. And I don't know, let me rephrase that. What I perceive to be an increase, granted, my conversations are pretty much limited to the Unfuckers group. I don't really talk to anyone outside of Unfuckers. So I have, our small members base to go off of as a comparison. And let's face it, we're kind of a unique group. So I'm not saying this is a fact. I'm just saying, based upon what we've been discussing. And it feels like everything is amping up. And like I said, I know I've said this before, but it just keeps going. And what we discussed, and I'm sure you guys will all say it, the shit that we discussed back in like June and July going, oh my God, it's gotten so crazy. Time is jumping all over the place. And I'm the woozies and I'm so exhausted. That is like a fucking picnic compared to what we're going through right now. Am I off base on this one? Is there anyone else who disagrees? Because that's what it feels like to me. So I have to look at this and we say, okay, well, it feels two ways of looking at it, let's say. For me, I break it down into kind of two basic broad categories. One is what is being done to us. The other being what is being done by us or through us, if you will. So the one side, we look at being done to us, so you look at technology, and we've discussed, all the mind control shit and all the brainwave crap and all the drugging down and the chemtrails and the blah, 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 blah. And I'm sure that a lot of the shit that we go through could be tossed off as being, it's something in the chemtrails that are making everyone so tired. If you're seeing things or hearing things, that could be them playing with, mind control gadgets, etc. And it's absolutely plausible. It's absolutely plausible. It's definitely something that's on the table as a consideration. But on the flip side of that, I look at the fact that it feels like people are, for example, hearing more, seeing more, feeling more. And we've always talked about that whole, I hate the expression, the veil, but, you know, as the veil thins, as things start to, maybe say even the control structures, start to thin out and pull apart, is that why we're experiencing this shit? Now, one of the things for me is I'm not someone who sees, as far as, Nick calls them the shadows. Nick sees the shadows out of his peripheral vision. And he's always seen them, especially the last 5-6 years. And he'll say, he always kind of keeps track of like, okay, it's been like, wow, there's been a lot of fucking shadows this last couple of weeks. Or, hey, you know, I haven't really noticed many. I do occasionally see shadows. Occasionally. But nowhere near like he does or like Quinlan does. But all of a sudden, in about the last 4 weeks, I'm seeing people out of the corner of my eye. And I said, I can't explain it better than to say it's like you see something, but it's not just seeing, you actually feel something. And you know, it's not like the curtain blows beside you and it catches your peripheral vision and you're oh, what moved? What was over there? It's even before you look, you know, you can feel that there's something there, someone there. There's multiple times I have turned around to go and talk to someone. Because I'll be working on my computer here, and I can feel someone coming up behind me. And I swear there's someone standing right here. And I've actually started talking, assuming it's Quinlan or one of my kids, and gone, do me a favor, can you go grab me? And then gone, there's no one here. And I know that's what I felt. Now, there's a lot of people who have been talking about, in the last 2 weeks especially, hearing more tones, a lot of high-pitched noises, humming kind of noises as well. And there's been a lot of people who've actually been starting to hear pieces, hear fragments of conversation, hear their name. Now, some people have been for a long time. You hear your name being called. That's all of a sudden becoming a lot more prevalent now. The sensing. So like I say, that sensing when there's something around, when there's something there, there's something. You taking doggo out?
Yeah, so I want to steering
Okay. Come on, go for a walk. Off you go, lazy ass. Yeah, you big thug. That is increasing exponentially. Dreams. Now we go through, it almost feels like we go through waves where the dreams come in. And waves is kind of funny because when I had a conversation with Anne and Brianna and Gail, was it earlier this week, shortly before, talking about water dreams. And again, that's coming back up again. People are having dreams of like tidal waves and floods and just water dreams in general where they're in water, etc. There's a lot of people saying they're having active dreams, but they can't remember them. Like they're instantaneously gone. And that's where I've been for the last 3 weeks. I know every night I'm having like ridiculous amounts of dreams, and I can't remember anything. No matter how hard you try, even in the dream, you cannot, pardon me, you can't remember, no matter how hard you try to grasp onto a piece. That's really coming up right now. Again. And then, of course, the whole thing of exhaustion. And again, we can explain the exhaustion as in, the geomagnetic fields are really, really screwed up, and solar flares, and, I don't know, chemtrails, and, so stress, and it could be HARP, and it could be any other thing. But again, it doesn't make sense. There's only so long you can be exhausted. And I'm getting reports from people the same thing this weekend who went to bed and slept for like 14 hours. Like that's how exhausted they were. They got into bed at like 8 and 9 o'clock at night and slept. all the way through the night until early midday. I find it very interesting. And I find it interesting. Well, I don't know, Anne. If we look at it and just bringing you into this conversation because we've discussed the whole northern pole, south pole, magnetics, etc. Do you happen to remember off the top of your head if like that exhaustion was one of those pieces to that?
No, I don't actually. I could look it up for sure. I don't think it was a big feature. We were looking at vertigo, dizziness, numbness, tingling, those kind of things. I don't think that exhaustion featured so much.
So it's not necessarily a geomagnetic type thing. Because I mean, if anything that's magnetic, if we're talking about fluctuations within the Earth's magnetic field, it is going to directly impact our own magnetic fields. And therefore, there could be physical ramifications from that, physical symptoms that we are feeling that come from that, like, tilting planets. But again, going to the scientific side of it, if it's something in the geomagnetic field, would not everyone feel it at the same time? Even within a locality, because you can say we've seen geomagnetic fluctuations that can be all over the planet, they can be fluctuations. But if, for example, there's some kind of an anomaly over Gozo, wouldn't everyone in Gozo, to a greater or lesser extent, experience that fluctuation at the same time and therefore have symptoms all around the same time? That is what I would think, as just looking at it purely from science level. But that's not what we're seeing. How can you be in the house with someone, like I say, and like Nick last Sunday was literally falling over. He could not stand up straight. The world was tilting so strongly for him. And I wasn't. So it seems to me that you can't look at it from a perspective of a broad spectrum being done to you, i.e. HARP, chemtrails, geomagnetic fuckery, because it seems to me that it would then have to affect everyone, at least within a small region of wherever is being targeted. What do you guys think?
Maybe it is affecting them, but they just don't know that it's affecting them. Absolutely. I know that sounds like really stupid.
No, because I've actually, no, Jane, you're absolutely right. No, I get it. And the whole thing is, though, is like I said, because I've done that as well, and say, if people don't know what if people don't have a descriptive word as, or a background comprehension, then they would toss off a lot of those physical effects or symptoms as something else, right? But like I'm saying, you're in the same house with someone, and they're going through a massive, woozy, I'm going to fall over, like the world is literally sliding sideways, and everyone else in the house is not feeling that. That's what I'm talking about, the difference. Like, how can that be if you were talking something that is a broad spectrum attack, for lack of a better word?
Another thing to consider, Danny, is when you have a household and not everybody's feeling the same way, look at, are some of the ones that are feeling that way in front of their PCs, a lot, and handling, our devices, 24/7. I know I do until I go to bed at night, and then I unplug everything, the Wi-Fi, all of it goes.
Yeah, I mean, and I've looked at that too. I mean, in our house, we're fucking totally plugged in household. Everyone's got a device on them. The kids have got tablets. They're always using them. The Wi-Fi, unfortunately, is always on. Even if ours wasn't personally on, everyone around us, it's like you're blanketed with it. And okay, Mercedes, that is interesting. Okay, and that is one of the things I wanted to talk about. Okay, Mercedes said different vibrations which only affect those of a similar frequency. And that's one of the things, because we talk about frequency. Every person has their own unique frequency. So if the, for lack of a better word, disturbance is due to a specific frequency, and therefore if it just happens that whatever the disturbance frequency is happens to be like dead on the money with yours, therefore you're the one who's affected by it. It's only affecting those who are within that frequency range.
There you go. Yep.
That's really interesting. Nicely done, Mercedes. That's something to really, really actually think about. Because frequency, I mean, this is the whole thing. Everything is frequency. Everything is frequency. From the sound waves to your Wi-Fi to the planet has a frequency. We have a frequency. Everyone around us has a frequency. When you are together with different groups of people, you create a frequency between the groups of people as those frequencies mesh. Weather patterns can create frequencies. Oh yeah, wind creates frequency. Lightning, thunder, high pressure and low pressure systems can all create their own frequencies. Yeah, but you see, Chris, so I think that is a misnomer, right? So Chris just said they could be targeting the more awake people, i.e. empathic, who are at a higher frequency. I personally, and I will probably get shot for saying this, I think that whole higher frequency thing is bullshit. I've honestly always thought that. And every time, back when I used to be in, into the channel messages and shit back in 2011 and 12, they'd be like, oh, some galactic idiot would be like, you have to raise your frequencies. I'd be like, fuck you.
I'm so glad to hear you say that.
This and raise your own fucking frequency with it.
That's right. Preach it.
Right? Because we have a frequency. Now, don't get me wrong, Chris, you're right. If you're in joy, you have a greater frequency. You have a different frequency to your own harmonics than if you're in hate. If you're angry, you are going to resonate out or send out a different frequency than you are if you're really, really happy. Absolutely. And could it be that they're targeting people? Yeah, but again, it doesn't explain why one person in the house feels it and the other person doesn't. And then 2 weeks later, the other person feels it and this one doesn't. And it's even when you're with groups of friends, right? We've seen it here. We've had the conversations here where, just like some people are like, oh my God, I got completely thrown sideways all weekend. I was a wrecking ball. And other people are saying, no, I actually feel a lot better this week. That's the reason why I don't think it's targeted.
Another thing to consider too is, and I know this is stretching it a little bit, but we're kind of, I heard it said recently, and I would agree with this, we're like walking antennas right now, because we've got lots of metals in us, and we could take that and run, but we won't. It's just another thought, because if we have antennas, we're tuned into that shit.
Absolutely. Okay, look at you. The whole idea of implants and all the rest of it, Nick and I were both ex-military. They injected us with so much fucking shit while we were in the military, it's not even freaking funny. God only knows what the hell we were injected with. And I've pulled shit out of my own body that I'm like, that's not natural. That's not, stuff coming out of my skin was like, that's not natural. Your body does not produce little tiny hard crystal spheres or
thread type things.
Yeah, does not happen naturally.
Yeah.
What the fuck is...
I guess there was a loud sound or something. I didn't catch it.
Okay, guys. Okay, there's something going on in chat, and I'm trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Did you guys hear something?
No, it's sorry. There's 2 comments already that come across as being written by me. I did not write them. I was not even close to the keyboard. I'm lying back on the fucking. So either somebody's having a great time, and they know how to hack.
No, we've got someone in the participant whose name is me.
Ah, okay. Then
because just before you said that, I did the exact same thing and going, okay.
Okay, there's a me. Okay. Hello, me. Well, thank you, me, for letting me go what the fuck for 15 minutes without saying that me is not me. Thank you, me. Bye, me. Whoever you are.
Whoever is me, can I ask a favor? The next time you come on the call, don't choose the name me, because basically if you write to anyone, it comes up as me on your own personal chat. So any comments coming from someone named me is highly fucking confusing to everyone in the chat. Going, I didn't type that. What the hell? It freaked me out for a second too. No, completely, totally sidetracked there. I completely forgot what the hell I was just.
You didn't know what you want. We're going to talk about tonight, Denny, but we're doing great. You're on a roll.
Yeah. No, these are just a couple of little things I knew were coming up, and I wanted to talk about them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Frequency. I think that is actually very interesting, just because of the fact that we all have a unique frequency. Could it be that, again, we could almost put it in the category of we are seeing more, hearing more, feeling more, i.e. becoming more sensitive to. So if, like I said, even wind has its own frequency, or can attain frequencies. So if we are seeing something that's happening, it just so happens that something external from you is at a same frequency level as your personal frequency, and you're feeling it, is it because we're just becoming more sensitive to it? That now it's really affecting us because we're more aware of how sensitive we are to stuff? I don't know. Well, the energy from the X-ray burst can definitely affect DNA. That's a proven fact. This is one of those things, and I'll get into one of my whole things, is I've always had the thing, call it my belief structure. There you go. My bias, my personal belief structure. It has always struck me that something is coming from space, or whatever you want to call that will affect us. Whether it is a solar flare, whether it is protons, high energy protons, whether it is some cosmic particle dust, God knows what. It has just been something that's always kind of resonated with me, that any one of these things could affect us in our DNA. And I've always firmly believed, again, belief, that our latent DNA, asleep DNA, that whole like 80% of our brain that we purportedly don't use,
There you go.
is all turned off and could very well at any point in time be turned on. Well, when we're talking about that aspect of stuff, yes, an X-class solar flare, levels of solar radiation could very well be a trigger that could change our DNA in some way or another. We know this. We know it. They've done studies, right? So we do know that this is a fact. But do I have anything to support that? No, of course not. It's just yet another bias to throw on the table, so to speak. Just another bias to throw on the table.
That's a good thing. We need a few of them, don't we?
So that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about today. What do you guys want to talk about? Seriously. Like I said, I've been brain dead all weekend. I've been just absolutely exhausted. I haven't slept all weekend. So I'm kind of, not really so with it tonight. Oh, London, I don't want to talk about fucking London. That has got to be the worst false flag attack I have ever seen them stage. I mean, the absolute fucking worst. I have seen grade 6 public school productions of The Wizard of Oz that were more believable than this fucking false flag attack.
Totally out of money. You got to pay the lower level guys.
Yeah, they're totally out of money, and they've hired grade 6 students to stage all their false flag attacks now. That was so unbelievable from start to finish. There is, I literally took one look at the photos and I laughed so hard that I was like, I don't need to go see it anymore. I don't even feel the need to go looking to try and prove that it's a false flag, because all you had to do was watch any newscast and it was right fucking there in front of you. The little bag, did you see the one that I posted on my wall today? Of the British military, all dressed up in their military with a little bag over top, like as a chest protector. Because, it's the latest thing in indestructive materials. Yeah.
Got a terrorist bucket. This is fun.
That's right, the terrorist bucket. That's right. I don't want to know what bucket that is, because I've never had a bucket last me longer than about, a year. Because I always do something stupid, like turn it upside down and use it as a stool and like crush it or shit like that. So I want to know what fucking bucket they used, because I'm sure they would sell out globally as being the most indestructible bucket in the world.
Bucket challenge, yeah. And next time we'll have the attack of the mops.
The attack of the mops. Because if you're going to have a bucket, you got to have a mop. But we'll plant that meme. Everyone plant that meme. Next false flag attack is going to feature a mop. Absolutely. A fuck it bucket. Oh, Merce, yes, it was a false flag attack. Someone blew up a bomb on the tube in London, and it is just unbelievably bad. Unbelievably unbelievable. Yeah.
Money for C4, so they used vinegar and baking soda.
And they made a volcano? Really? Well, even I know how to make napalm. Seriously. I did say 6th graders. Yes, I did. Oh yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like the pink crisis actor, the chick with the red hair. I mean, that's just like so. She's going to go down in history. I'm telling you, she's going to go down in history as one of those like the chick with the dark hair that we saw at all the false flag attacks. This red haired chick, guaranteed. So, yeah, interesting shit. So I will mention this. On Wednesday, we're kind of throwing it everything out. We're changing all the schedule all over the place. I'm going to just do random shit and just not let anyone know what show is going to be on. Except for the one I'm going to tell you about now. On Wednesday night this week, which is, let's see, what date is that? That will be Wednesday, the 20th of September. We're going to be doing Transpicuous Views at our usual time, 11 p.m. Central Europe. And we're going to be talking cryptocurrencies. And we're going to be talking blockchain. And I've asked a friend of mine who is very, very knowledgeable and has been following this stuff from the very beginning to come in, because I want to talk about this. There's a lot of... There's a lot of bias. There's a lot of misunderstanding. Like a lot of people don't really grasp what blockchain is, what it could be, other things that it could be, and cryptocurrencies and the movements that are going on right now financially across the world. So yeah, like our buddy of mine is going to come in and he's going to take us through it all. He's going to talk about all of this stuff, explain blockchain to people, explain cryptocurrencies, how they work. And no, it won't be Cliff High, but this friend of mine is actually friends with Cliff High. So there will be a lot of that stuff. And I'm actually going to have him talk about Cliff High's WebBot, about a little bit of an explanation of what the WebBot is, because again, I think a lot of people don't quite comprehend how Cliff High comes up with his reports. There's a very interesting, there's some interesting shit there. So I want to kind of put it all on the table and put it out there. Interesting shit's going on in cryptocurrencies. I'm going to be investing in some very, very soon. Because there is interesting shit going on in cryptocurrencies right now. So, yes, that's this Wednesday. So, if you guys want to be part of that, we will have a question and answer at the end of it, for sure, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So, what else you want to talk about, guys? Yeah, he's doing it with algorithms, exactly. But again, algorithm is a word. How many people actually understand what the word algorithms mean? Not as in what the definition of the word is, but comprehend, right? Yeah. There's been a lot of interesting shit going on. Yeah, the whole Cassini crashing into... I haven't looked at the pictures. I have to say, I haven't looked at the images yet. But all those high-definition images of coming from Cassini before they deliberately crashed it. Yeah, okay. Why? Nick and I joked about saying, wouldn't it be really funny? Because they consider it to be a gas giant, right? Wouldn't it be funny? And I mean, we would never know unless you somehow... Well, I think they learned their lesson from the Mars landing how many fucking years ago? Like, was that 25 years ago now? Not to broadcast these images live, because you never know what you're going to see. And we joked about, what if Cassini crash lands and actually lands on solid land and they find out, it's totally inhabited? Just different life forms. So how stupid do scientists have to be that they base all their concept of life based around the planet Earth? Just because we consider this, us, these, and what's around us as life forms doesn't mean that there isn't life on other planets. Even ones that we would consider to be, inhospitable, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know. I had a friend, speaking of the Mars, a good friend of mine actually, who I've now just gotten back in touch with, because this was back in Gozo, who, with a gang of her friends in England, stayed up to watch the big Mars landing, because it was going to be all televised live. As soon as, they were going to land, once they landed, they were going to televise the live images coming from the whole bit. And her and several friends stayed up, and it was like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning when these images were going to be hitting England. And they saw shit. And they saw, like, for example, the big face on Mars. And they all went, what? I mean, of course, you never heard another thing about it, right? Never heard anything more about it, and the feed went down and closed and all the rest of it. So, yes, I think NASA learned its lesson not to do live broadcasts of purported landings on other planets. Well, what, Brianne, that's interesting because Catalonia is, again, going up for the referendum for independence. They have already done at least one.
That was a symbolic, though. The one they did was symbolic. This one is for real. Well, they want it for real.
And the Spanish government keeps saying you can't have this vote. And Catalonia is like going, yeah, fuck you, we can. We don't want to be part of Spain anymore. But it's happening in Italy. It's happened several times in Italy. Now Venice voted to leave Italy, and the island off of Italy. Oh, help me! Big island off of Italy, west coast.
Sardinia?
Sorry,
Sardinia?
Sardinia. Thank you. Sardinia voted as well to separate from Italy, and then nothing ever happens from it. But the Catalonia one is interesting because they're really, really fired up about it. It wasn't like, I'm sorry, but, you know, it wasn't like the Scottish referendum, which was completely bullshit from start to finish. And, I mean, the voting was just so obviously fucking rigged. It was ridiculous. Yeah, so the one that happened in Catalonia, that's a really interesting one. But there's a lot of this going on. And a lot of these small people don't realize places like Venice only became part of Italy, and I think it was in the 1800s that Venice finally became a part of Italy. Up until that point, Venice was its own state. It was its own nation.
Italy became Italy in the 1800s. It was all smaller, independent, autonomous provinces or whatever. They were like little countries. There was no Italy per se as a whole country. Anyway.
So
Spain is funny. Spain actually threatened the mayors with jail for promoting the independency vote. They said that anybody that has a printing, whatever you call them, who would print the ballots would be closed immediately and have all the ballots destroyed. I mean, this is getting really funny. This has never been to this level of ridiculous. I remember following the Venice thingy 2-3 years ago, when the fuck it was. It wasn't this level.
2015, I think.
14 or 15 or what?
Maybe 2014, yeah.
But this one is reaching like levels of total ridiculous. You know, like Madrid is giving out those big, ridiculous threats. You know, we're going to burn your ballots. We're going to close you down. We're going to send the fucking kinky hats, Guardia Civil. We're going to fuck you over. We're going to roll you over in sand and then put you in big ovens. It's crazy funny.
Well, there's a lot of areas in Europe that are really, really, really have only very loosely been considered a nation within that nation. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, I've got friends who are Sardinian, and they are Sardinian. Don't ever call them Italian. Right? And when you see the countries now literally burning, like we got fire sales going on, Portugal, Spain, Italy, Greece, they're so financially fucked, and they've been so hammered with austerity. There's a lot of these ones who are kind of going, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I think you can take your austerity and put it with the sun don't shine. And we're just gonna split away from you guys, and you guys can have fun with that, and we're gonna make our own country again. And the fact that they were their own countries gives them a much stronger, unlike, you know, the whole California is going to leave the United States. Right. But when you're talking about places like Venice, like Catalonia, Sardinia, places like that, these places were their own country and got kind of absorbed and packed into this one big one. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Okay, so Mercedes just said, even the post office has been told not to mail any ballot and stuff related to that voting. Was also the cause of that attack, but it went off too soon. They wanted to demonstrate by it that Catalonia was too weak to defend itself. Ah, yes. Well, that's their go-to, right? Honestly, that's their go-to. Yeah, and Texas as well. Texas, at least every 5 years, threatens to go back to being a republic again. At least every 5 years, at least. Oh, absolutely, Megan. Yeah, absolutely. This is the thing. There's so much interesting shit when you start looking around Europe, especially, because that's when you beyond the last 350 odd years of North America, really, Europe is this central point of history that we get taught in school. And now we have so many questions about the historical cover-ups going on and what is our history, what was our history, and did a lot of this history even exist to begin with? I mean, seriously. I come across stuff all the time now, and it's just gotten to the point where I look at stuff and go, this just can't be. Like, there's just no way they can even sell this story anymore, because now that you start to see it, the whole has become so huge and massively obvious to the storyline. It's like, yeah. Yeah, the whole thing with Texas being flooded, though, comparative to the whole thing of Texas claiming, like, so people brought up the whole gold depositories, and this keeps coming up. This is a really interesting one, and like I said, I always look for the piece. I always look for the timing when these news articles come out, and especially stuff that we're seeing repeats of news articles. So the whole thing with Texas repatriating the gold, their gold, and again, their gold, started in 2015. And at the time was when I was heavily investigating. I was really, watching everything financial going along. And I went in and I researched the hell out of this. And it wasn't the state of Texas's gold. And it wasn't the state of Texas who was repatriating their gold at all. It was a university in Texas that had gold holdings that wanted to repatriate their gold holdings from New York back into Texas. It wasn't the state of Texas. And yet that keeps playing out. And it's about once a year or so they kind of bring up this whole thing with Texas and repatriating gold. I'm like, but wait. It's not Texas's gold. It's a private investment fund held by a university. Now, like I said, unless something has changed in the last year, that Texas is all of a sudden decided they've got gold in the Fed and they're going to pull their gold back, I've never seen any proof of it. All I see is the repeat of the same story. So they talk about them building a gold repository in Texas, and of course then we have Hurricane Harvey come through, and a lot of people pointed to that going, oh, look, they want to repatriate the gold, and now there's a hurricane comes through. I think there's a lot more to it that. There's a lot of interesting shit that goes on in Texas. A lot of interesting, powerful families that are in Texas. So I think the repatriating of the gold is a distraction. And I think that's why it just keeps coming up, and they keep playing that same headline over and over again when really it's not relevant. I don't think, personally. Yeah, Brianna, oh my God, everyone hyping now about September 23rd, because it wasn't enough to hype about August 21st. No. And people didn't get through that, and now it's September 23rd. And you're absolutely right. September 23rd, 2015 was when it was one of the Jewish holidays, and it was supposed to signify the beginning of the Jubilee or the end of the Jubilee, and something or other, and it's back up again. Now everyone's going on about this. September 23rd. Yeah, no. Sorry. No. Sorry. I've watched this every September. Every fucking September, towards the end of September, there's always something that they start this huge, oh, this is going to happen, and nothing ever fucking happens. So, no. No, I do not believe it. And planetary alignments, yeah, find me some hardcore proof that there's a planetary alignment on the 23rd, because all I see is memes. All I've seen is a pile of memes coming around talking about some grand planetary alignment happening September 23rd, but I've not seen a single person post a single astrological, scientific-based article that there's a planetary alignment on September 23rd. I said so on The Simpsons. What, September 23rd was mentioned on The Simpsons, was it? The U.S. debt ceiling was apparently raised. I haven't even had a chance to go in and look at it. They passed the whole budget, so they didn't close. They're not going to close the government down. They raised the debt ceiling because they tied in all the hurricane relief to it. That's how they got it raised, bipartisan, like across the board, both parties. Was they basically tied everything to do with the emergency funding for Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma. They tied it to the raising of the debt ceiling bill. So that's why it was all done. Oh, sorry guys. Like I said, I haven't slept in days. Oh yes, and Nibiru was whipping by on September 23rd too. That's the other one. Yes. Well, okay, Stacey, there's my question on that one. Likely they wouldn't help Texas and Florida. Loads of rich political families live there. Exactly. Florida and Texas have a lot of similarities in the fact of you have a lot of money in those states by not necessarily corporate, well, I mean, it's all corporate, we know that, but not as in corporations, but I mean as in family money, old family money in those two places. More so than California. More so than California. You've got old-time families there in both places. You've also got interesting military shit that goes on in both places. There's a lot of shit. That was the question, like why Florida? We had talked about it last Sunday, like with Irma coming through. Why Florida? There's a lot of questions there. Like, what is in Florida? What did they want to get? Well, you evacuate everyone out of the frickin' state. Basically, it makes you be able to go in and do all kinds of shit when people are busy, distracted by high winds, et cetera, et cetera. So what were they actually up to?
Yeah, Danny, I'm so glad you just brought that up because I was thinking about that too. 5 million people were evacuated.
Is that the final number?
Well, that was the number midweek last week. Yes, wow. Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's like half the state. That's like half the state, and you can see the traffic. I mean, there's videos out there. You can find them. But, this just really, really bothers me. Because what the fuck? And you know what? My son got back at 3 a.m. last night. And he finally got a hold of me this morning. And I asked him, I said, so how does it look? He's in Venice, which is just south of Sarasota.
Yep.
Okay. Right on the water. And he went outside to smoke a cigarette and he goes, everything's pretty fucking normal. And I said, shut up. He goes, no. He goes, it looks like some of the potted plants over here on the patio got a little bit messed up. But he goes, no, everything looks pretty normal. I was like, what the? Now, but I will say this. And I've heard that a lot, that it really wasn't all that big of a deal. Now, when
a lot of places it did get heavily hit. Like I know there's a couple of places where it was almost like a wind tunnel effect.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Jacksonville was flooded. And that's way over on the northeast end of Florida, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay. But the other thing I wanted to point out is that water, however, did disappear from the bay in Tampa.
Yep.
Yep. So even though Tampa didn't get flooded, which is really fucking weird, okay? I mean, hello, there's the bay, the water's gone, the winds are blowing through Tampa, but there's no water. You know? Yeah. So.
I got a question for you guys. I'm just looking at a map of Texas right now. And I'm trying to remember. So we know that the flooding hit Houston really bad. The storm hit Houston. Did it go up over into Austin as well? Does anyone know?
That wasn't I stayed on this so heavily for the last 2 weeks, Danny. I'm sorry since Harvey was coming in.
Yeah.
There's been nothing reported on that. So, but I'm sure. How far away are they from Houston?
Oh, I've got a question. I want to remember the name of the city. So give me a second.
Because it hit that one town south of Houston, right on the coast. And that's a major industrial area. And then it moved north to Houston. And where did it go from there? Did it go north and up into the States? I think it did. And kind of petered out. It petered out pretty quick. It stayed over Houston, remember?
Yeah, no, it stayed over Houston. No. And I know that was where the main eye of it seemed to have been.
Yep.
I'm having issues. My computer is deciding it's not the computer. It's definitely my fault. I just want to see something here. Do we have anyone from Texas in here with us tonight? Because I want to try and get, it's down by Dallas, and Dallas didn't get hit, did it? Not to the extent of everything else.
Dallas did not get hit. I have a sister there.
Okay. Well, that blows one of my theories out of the water. Because I was just wondering if the floods in the hurricane were anywhere near the superconducting super collider. Because I was thinking of flooding. If you've got to flood something out, if there's something you got to cover up, that's one, but that's too far away. So there you go. See, one of my far-fetched crazy theories just got blown out of the water, no pun intended. Yeah, the whole water thing, I don't know. That's still the physical anomaly of water disappearing the way it did tidally. That just blows my brain. That's just crazy. And South America, like I said, the one that was talked to, the one report, I've forgotten who posted it in the Unfuckers room yesterday, and I asked for clarification. They said that the initial pulling back of the tide, it was down south edge of Brazil on the Atlantic coast. It was a port. And whoever had made the original post said that the port was still, they were like dry. As in, it didn't look like the water had ever come back. And that was August 20th when it first disappeared. So, we've got a new Hurricane Maria. Okay, hold on. Let me. You're gonna force me to pull up the links. Let us see. Let's pull up their bullshit. That's the NOAA one, and I will pull up the Intellicast one. So what's that one supposed to be? Is that supposed to be? I see two storms.
Barbados or somewhere. It's still in the lower Caribbean.
Okay. And so here you go. Right? So here we go. I'll show you guys. So I love this shit. When you look at this and you go, who do you believe, right? Give Give me a second. Okay, so this is the NOAA. Okay, so we have Florida down here, and you can see some hurricane over here, or some big storm front up here, purportedly. I don't know if that's supposed to be Jose or what. This is where Jose was, but that was like last fucking week, so this can't still be Jose down here, unless this is...
No, that's Jose. That's Jose up at the top.
So this is Jose up at the top. It's way out here, and this is the new Maria one.
Yeah, I think so. I'd have to look. Yeah.
Okay, so that's NOAA, where it says, you know, right down to the bottom, this site is intended for informational purposes only and not considered operational. Then I go up here to the IntelliCast, and, gee, what hurricane? I'm sorry. The hurricane, oh, wait, pull back, let's look. Let me pull out a little bit.
Yeah, isn't that the shit?
I don't see no fucking hurricane.
Nope, satellite's not been showing it. And then remember, at the last minute, they came in and finally showed Irma when it was just leaving. What is that down there below Florida? Is that Cuba? The long
Cuba, yep.
Yeah. And finally, when it was leaving the coast of Cuba, it popped up on satellite. So that one lady, are you talking about that one lady, Truth? She goes by Truth.
Yeah, she was doing all this stuff with that.
Yeah. It finally showed up on satellite. But now I guess Jose's not there on satellite. So there is definitely a discrepancy between radar and satellite, or NOAA and, right? So, yeah.
This is another
And I wondered about that too, Danny. Why the fuck aren't they on the same page? You know what I mean?
There's nothing there.
Nope.
There's nothing there. I don't know.
So who provides the satellite images?
NASA, of course.
NASA.
That's what I'm saying. The only satellite feeds you get for this kind of shit all comes from fucking NASA. NASA's base satellites. So, yeah.
So why wouldn't they show it? That's what I was, why? Why would they show it? If it's on radar.
I don't know. Don't look at me, chick. I know nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Well, I find it really strange.
Yep.
To say the least. Yep.
Hey, Danny.
Hello, darling.
It's Trina.
Hello, Trina.
So I'm good. Something really weird happened on our last night.
Uh-huh.
We had some thunderstorms coming through.
Yeah.
And we're right in central Missouri. And the radar was showing like the majority of the state was covered. And then all of a sudden over Springfield, which is down by Joplin, you remember the big tornado that went through Joplin? It's way south to the southwest. It was a perfect circle over Springfield all of a sudden. And then the radar blinked out on the southern part of the state after that. Completely left. There was a perfect circle over Springfield, and then it completely left. I just wanted to throw that in there as far as radar, because it was weird. My husband and I sat there and we kept looping it. You know how it does. We kept looping it. I'm like, what the hell? Just, what is that? Why did this perfect circle come over Springfield, and then the whole thing from that area just left? It was just gone. So I just wanted to throw that in there as far as radar images.
Our biggest problem that we have, whenever we look at any of this kind of data, we have no idea where the data comes from. So, for example, during Irma, I was watching radar stuff, and I was getting from one of the global website that does tides. Strangely enough, and part of the tides is they do an up-to-date, minute-to-minute type of weather, and they get the weather, like the readings come off of the buoys, they come off of the airfields, they come off of the tidal stations, all around, and they correlate the data. So they'll say, like, airport here is showing winds of 35 kilometers an hour, and it's raining, it's, blah, it's thunder, it's lightning, it's sunny, whatever. But the problem is we still don't know. Like for the big stuff, like all these radar feeds that I've been looking at, we don't know. We don't have access to the information. We do not have access to anything that is remotely what we could consider unbiased information. Whether you're looking at solar stuff, where all the information is coming from NOAA and NASA, and even, the Russian space programs, pardon me, we're not part of that loop. We don't have access to the raw data coming in. We have no idea if it's true, it's false, if it's anything. We really don't. We can only look at it, what we have an ability, to look at, and then just decipher it as best we can.
Has anybody else ever seen where your radar is showing it should be absolutely pouring and there's nothing? There hasn't been anything. Yep. But according to the radar, it looks like it's absolutely pouring. And I think we really got into that. I've had that happen here so many times where we're like, guys. And then they'll say there's like 20% chance of rain and it's just downpouring. And we're like, I'm pretty sure it's 100%. But then I think we saw that with the hurricane where everybody on boots on the ground, people were saying it's bad, like there's a storm, but it's not what the radar looks like. But I've seen that just here where it's supposed to be pouring according to the radar. And I'm like, what? It's not making it to the ground somehow? I don't know.
Do you know the Weather Channel, right?
Oh, yeah. My husband's in construction.
I got myself banned from commenting on the Weather Channel's page back in 2012. Nope. 2010. I am banned by the Weather Channel. I can't comment on their Facebook page, and I'm blocked on their website as well. Because I got to the point, at one point, we were living in Niagara Falls for a very short period of time, but 10, 12 months. The weather was never right. And I mean, like, if they did call the weather correctly, and I don't mean as in the forecast for 3-4 days away, I'm talking about in the moment. Like right now, it's pouring rain. No, it's not. It's beautiful. It's sunshine. There's 4 clouds in the sky. We're going to have, clear skies and maybe a little bit of cloud cover, and there's a fucking blizzard. And I mean, literally, we get 12 inches of fucking snow. It's blizzarding, and they're saying clear skies and mild winds, and we're in the middle of a blizzard. And you're like,
correct.
And I used to make so many sarcastic comments on their website of like, here's a thought. How about you guys open a window, put your head outside? How about you just call up people in the neighborhood and be like, what's the weather? Is it raining? Cool. Okay, thanks.
But what's their end game? Why are they doing that when we can look outside? We can sit outside and see it's complete bullshit. What's the purpose?
Well, there's a script that they're all following.
But what's the script?
Yeah,
that's what I'm asking.
What they're reporting is the script.
Herein is the question. Well, here's the thing. Okay, on looking at it as a purely logistical issue, these guys who put up for like the Weather Channel, and I'm using them as a prime example because they're big, they're across the world. The Weather Channel gives weather forecasts all over the world. They don't have boots on the ground in every single town. They have a group of meteorologists. Maybe they have one on the east coast of Canada and one on the west coast of Canada. Maybe they've got one on the east and central states and western states, etc. So they don't have boots on the ground, and they're just reading the charts. So if you have, and we can look at this analogy, actually can go right through to everything from fucking big pharma to medical, big oil, all of them. CERN even. The people who are sitting there at the desks reading the information, if they don't know about HARP, if they don't know about NextRat, if they don't know about all this, if they don't believe in geoengineering, then they're going to go like this. They're going to go, okay, right, we're going to punch in the weather for Tampa. Pull it up on the feed. Yeah. Okay. No, it's clear with the chance of sun. Clear with the chance of winds. There we go. And they just type in what they're shown on the screen. And if they don't understand the concept of freaking harp rings going kapow, and at the same time as a king bomb is dropped, and all of a sudden you have a hurricane form, then they don't make that call because they literally don't fucking see it.
Danny, I gotta tell you, I don't know if you saw this. It just came across the internet, for me at least, the last couple of weeks. But the actual founder of the Weather Channel, came out and publicly said, on live television, that global warming was pure bullshit.
Yep. I did see that. That was kind of a giggle.
Yep.
Distract. That's global warming. Distract. But yeah, like what we just said about the weatherman, I mean, this goes across to CERN. You know, the guys who are doing readings inside CERN, there's shitloads of scientists sitting around. They have no fucking clue. They're doing what they were taught in university. They're using the information they were taught in university to correlate all this data that they're seeing on charts, and they're all excited about stuff that's happening. And pharmaceutical companies, you don't think that the people who are making these vaccines are all bad guys who are evil and are trying to kill everybody's child? No, of course they aren't. They're people who've been through university and they've been taught the science, and they're doing the best that they can with the information they have. They don't know. And that's why, in some cases, the whistleblowers are so important, that when they come out of the industry. So like the one lady, and you can help me with this, she's from, I want to say Russia, and she's the immunologist, and she went to Harvard and she went to Stanford. I mean, this is a woman who's really high up there, well educated, and she talks about the vaccines and how the immunization doesn't fucking work that way. And when you read, I can't remember what her name is. So when you watch her video where she's explaining this, she went to school. The woman's got a PhD in immunology. They only teach this piece. And that's all the data they have to work with. And when you accept this piece as absolute truth, never to be questioned, then you don't look for answers outside of your piece, because you don't even know that there's something to look at outside of your piece. And that's the problem with all of these people, whether it's people who are involved with geoengineering, who don't have a clue, because they've been taught that they're just cloud seeding to bring the rain. And because the crops are dry, we've got to get some rain to California because, you know, they're in such bad shape. So we're going to see these clouds, and we're going to do this, we're going to do that.
Right. That's right.
99.9% of these guys, they don't have a fucking clue what they're doing.
Yes, Danny, you're absolutely right. But that still doesn't explain when the radar is showing downpours over your head and that's not there. That's not people being, you know, blind to their education and all of that. That is literal, something is being put there.
Literal bullshit. And is it one of those things that we could sit there and go, it's all fucking bullshit? It's all fucking made up bullshit, and it just so happened that their program glitched out so badly that it was a real noticeable bullshit call?
Is it to make us notice it? Is that what it is? I mean, I can't figure it out.
And another thing is that what if our weather is no longer natural? You know, I've seen where they have these cloud making machines, and all the power plants along the coastal areas, especially in the United States, but even out to sea. And so if our weather is no longer natural, they would be following a script, and the script would be what is already predetermined, and that's the data they're given. You know what I'm saying?
And I mean, the other thing is we're looking at massive shifts in the weather patterns. We are looking at massive shifts in the weather patterns.
Yep.
And they don't know how to read that. And again, but they've been programmed within a diatribe, a dogma. Global warming, climate change, CO2 levels, blah, 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 blah. And they can't move outside of that. And therefore, everything that they do is skewed. Every conclusion that they come up with is entirely skewed because they have a preset program already in there about what this means. So if all of a sudden you have weather anomalies coming up, they don't look at it as anything, i.e. the radar is fucked or someone's tampering with the weather really, really extensively because the road excuses are, well, climate change. Climate change caused this to happen.
You know, to me, Danny, what do you think about this? Doesn't it almost seem like it would be an absolute intentional discrepancy between the satellite and the radar? So NASA and who runs the radar? Who owns that?
I don't know. Good question.
Right.
Oh. Well, darlings, I think I am going to call it quits early tonight. I'm really, really freaking tired right now. So yeah, stay tuned on Wednesday when we're going to be talking blockchain and Bitcoin, and not so much Bitcoin, although we'll get into that, of course, too, but cryptocurrency. Bring across this to the table that you've got questions. I am going to ask everyone, no jumping in on the conversation. We'll have a question and answer period at the end, but I don't want anyone, please, if you can all help it, no jumping in. Just save your questions, write them down on a piece of paper, and save it to the end. Just because I don't want to interrupt the flow of the conversation on Wednesday. I want to really keep it right to topic. So yeah, I'm going to love you and leave you. I got to go to bed before I fall down. I think very, very soon I'll be switching it back to our 1 hour earlier time. Very, very soon. Very, very soon. Anyways, guys, I will talk to you all later. Bye.
One small step for man.